Last night on Riverdale, we finally found out who killed Jason Blossom, and that was just one of many shocking twists. Get ready. This is your Riverdale recap here on Screen Junkies News. Hey guys, I'm Sasha Pearl-Raver here with Roth Coronet, our resident Betty. And there has been so much.
So you're the Veronica?
At this point, I kind of want to be the Cheryl. There is much to discuss because last night we got the answer to the question we've been asking
bad thing, Daddy,
all season. Who done it? And you last week came up with hashtag why done it. Many episodes ago, we figured out hashtag maple syrup land grab.
Yes.
And oh man, there was so much good stuff this episode.
So much. Twitter was blowing up last night.
Absolutely.
I actually had to stay off of it until I was able to watch the episode.
When did you watch?
I had to watch it late because there was working. Here's a little bit about our lives. I was working late and she was traveling.
I watched it in the airport at 6 a.m. this morning, and the whole time I was like, and then the big reveal moment, I was like, come on. And everyone at the airport was looking at me like I was crazy. And then the reveal happened, and I will say, I was a little bummed.
You were bummed. Interesting. Okay, so
tiny little bit.
I was a little disappointed in myself, and I'll tell you why.
Because you thought you had it figured?
Well, no, because it was so, like, I should have had it figured, because we even had a sleuthy commenter last week, and I'm so sorry, I should have had your name picked up because you're amazing, pointing out that this is like Leland Palmer, the hair turning white overnight from Twin Peaks. I got my David Lynch earrings on.
That's right.
From Twin Peaks.
Universe.
So it's like, it could not have been more obvious that he did it.
Well, there were so many things. All right, so let's actually step through.
Let's walk it through.
Let's walk through the door of Riverdale and start with some of the big moments.
Okay.
Big moment number one, you've got Jughead on the phone with his mother in Toledo saying, I bought a bus ticket, I'm gonna come, and getting totally rejected.
How much did that moment break your heart?
Oh my God, Cole Sprouse.
He is so good. He is the heart and soul of this series.
Shockingly good, like offensively good.
Yeah.
Way beyond CW good.
He is so good, and that broke my heart, that moment.
It broke my heart. It made me so... Go.
Well, he's just been rejected again and again. His dad he rejected him with his behavior, right? Mm-hmm. And then even though he saw through that, it's like he's been experiencing that his whole life. His dad makes it impossible for him to feel welcome in his own home.
Well, he has no worth. He has no worth. And now he's finally getting it from Betty, which is the thing about Bughead that makes me so nervous, because if and when Betty turns and goes to find love elsewhere, I'm going to be destroyed.
Well, Jughead's going to be destroyed, because then the Andrews, his safe place, now he's rejected there. Yeah. He's rejected at school.
But we're speculating.
The principal No, but this already happened. This happened in this episod. The principal is blaming him for Cheryl hitting him.
Weatherby was. That guy's such a dick. God,
such a dick. Weatherby.
Get
it together.
He goes to Cheryl and tries to apologize for his father being arrested for the murder of Jason Blossom.
You might have to bleep that out.
And all right. Such a dick.
But so much so. Honestly,
he's awful.
You have the youth in your hands, sir.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of 13 Reasons, and you should, of all people, know you are very responsible.
You should listen, but cry for help.
We've got this great moment with Cole Sprouse, which really had me going, this kid has been acting for so long. Mm-hmm. I kind of hope that we love the show. We know you guys love the show, but I don't want him to get maligned for this. Like, it took a really long time for some of the Dawson's Creek kids to bust out of Dawson's Creek. Like, Joshua Jackson kind of got away from it and now is on The Affair, and Katie Holmes does her thing, and Michelle Williams has been nominated for a bunch of Oscars.
I mean, I would say Michelle Williams is no longer even remotely associated with Dawson's Creek. But then you got
James Vanderbeek, and I just want to make sure that Cole Sprouse goes Michelle Williams and doesn't go James Vanderbeek, although I love James Vanderbeek too.
I do too, and by the way,
is phenomenal.
James Vanderbeek on Don't Trust the Bee.
Which was canceled. ABC. Always be canceling, you bastards.
That was such a great show. I do think that Cole Sprouse, I think he's actually demonstrating on this show what an adept actor he is, and I can't imagine that people wouldn't take notice, right? Like, you gotta stand up and take notice of this, because he's playing Jughead from Archie Comics, right? So on paper,
you thought it would be laughable.
You thought it would be like the jokey sidekick character. Killing it.
And breaking my heart.
Breaking my heart every week.
And then we go to the jail and we see FP being interrogated by, what?
Skeet's killing it a little bit too.
man,
Can we say
good. There's a moment at the end of the interrogation when he's admitting to all of these crimes. I took Jason Blossom. I heard about the plan. He came to me, needed money for a getaway car. We decided to do this weed trade. And then we realized how much we could get for him if we held him ransom. And at the very end, his bottom lip is quivering and his chin just starts to go. And I was like, oh, Skeet.
You're lying.
This is so great. Yeah. And we knew. And that was what was so heartbreaking. Nobody confesses that easily.
No.
Nobody ties it up in that neat little bow.
And you know that he's trying to protect Jughead for some reason. What I thought is that they had threatened him that they would instead frame Jughead.
Oh,
that was the threat, not to straight up murder him. But you knew he was protecting Jughead, or that the Blossoms had offered him money.
Right.
Right.
And so and in that way, he's still trying to protect Jughead because the money is a way he can provide for Jelly being Jughead and his wife off in Toledo being a terrible, terrible mother.
Really?
And not being excited when your son calls and says, I have a bus ticket and I'm coming for you. Yeah. Then you also have the search party. I mean, give it up for Veronica, who was in her pajamas, her little silky onesie pajamas, and then she threw on a mini dress, stockings, and a choker to go on like the midnight let's find Jughead party.
But the amazing thing about that is like she totally would do that.
I know.
She would totally wear that exact outfit.
And then Molly Ringwald giving us a lot of legal advice. She's the legal eagle from Chicago. But very underutilized.
I thought she was, and I was a little disappointed, right? Because I felt like we could have seen a lot more from that relationship because obviously, you know, Archie is paralleling Jughead in a way, right? Except that his parents are so much more loving and involved, but still his mother left, right? And his father's the one that stayed.
Doing the best he can.
Doing the best he can, but you can see how bad Jughead has it by comparison to that. You know what I mean? So I did think that I wanted to see a little bit more out of that relationship than we ultimately got, but there was a lot to cover in this episode.
There was. They did, and the thing that I thought they did so well on this episode was the entire time, even there's the final scene toward the end where the group is watching the videotape of who did kill Jason Blossom, and every single person's reaction led you to believe it could have been someone. You're watching Archie and you're like, was it Miss Grundy? You're watching Jughead and you're like, was it FP? You see Veronica and you're like, was it Hiram? You see Kevin and you start thinking maybe it's Joaquin. And Kevin finally got to do something!
Yeah, he did. But I will say, Betty was the one when she was watching it because they spent so much time on her face. That's where I was like, it was definitely Polly.
Definitely.
It was definitely Polly. But nope.
We got to get into some Coopers right here. Because while the Jughead Jones stuff was great and FP was great, the Cooper situation was off the chain.
So here's where I'm both proud and disappointed in us.
Okay.
Because we did call incest.
We did. Well, incest was obvious.
Incest was in there, but we did call it for the wrong two people, right?
Dude.
We think. Because something freaked Jason out. Something freaked Jason out enough that it was a total threat to that family.
So we have said for a long time that Hal was not to be trusted.
And was it that the Coopers have a right to some of their fortune?
So we have another great Twitter fan who said that maybe it was Archie, and Archie is actually an heir to the Blossoms.
Yeah.
No. You guys, Betty Blossom? Betty Blossom.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, we have a screen grab. That's the moment she realized it.
Yeah.
That's the face of a Blossom. She's so grossed out by it. And I was so grossed out by it. And then they go to the house and they have a big Blossom family reunion. And the Blossoms, being the creeps that they always are, you say, okay, the Blossoms and the Coopers are actually related. The Coopers changed their names. So Polly and Jason were like second or third cousins.
Yes.
Which is gross. And Mrs. Blossom says, what's more
pure Blossom than that?
And I had the same Blossom face that Betty had.
So here's what I think. We were suspecting that Archie with his red hair was maybe related to the Blossoms.
Right.
And that maybe that family actually had some kind of a right or a link to that fortune. But actually, it's the Coopers. I have several follow-up questions from that.
Let's go.
One is, then why have they not tried to get any of that fortune for themselves? Like, why have they not gone after that Blossom sweet maple syrup money?
Drowning it, why don't you?
Drowning it, why don't you? Two, I do think in inherent in what was said about what could be more pure Blossom and the fact that there is this weird tie to being a redhead, that there is some kind of keep it in the family motif. And in fact, maybe Jason found out about that and they were happy that he had Polly pregnant for that reason. And he was freaking out saying like, I'm going to tell her, and or there was something way back in the day where the Coopers have more of a claim than they think they do. Maybe they have pursued those paths previously and they have more of a claim than they think they do. And Jason found out and he's like, I'm going to let them know because this is my child now.
And now it should be like split evenly and it makes more sense to be.
And then he said, no way. And he's protecting the family on multiple levels is my guess. But Cheryl's daddy, you did a bad thing. And now everybody knows. It was so beautiful and so creepy. And they managed to maintain this pulpy, fun tone in the midst of Cole Sprouse over here is giving a really deep emotional performance, which is really tricky balance to maintain.
Absolutely.
But I still wonder, is there more to what Cheryl is up to? How much did she I don't think she knew.
I don't think she knew. I think she genuinely
really felt
had
betrayed.
Her world torn apart. And there was that great moment where Mrs. Blossom grabbed her by the wrists and like dragged her into the maple syrup sort of barrel house. Okay, my thought is why didn't they go after it sooner? The death of Jason, I think, explains that because they were always so dangerous, because they were willing to kill Grandpappy Cooper, who was actually Grandpappy Blossom. I think that's why they haven't gone after it earlier. I think it was fear does a lot for people. Yeah. And I think they were terrified for a really long time and then they got angry. They went through the fear stage into the anger stage into the give me back what's mine stage. Yeah. And I think that's why now they're going after it. But I love the idea that Jason found out. Maybe he was like, my kids are probably going to have some birth defects. Maybe I should tell my girl that you should get some things checked out because we might have some weird chromosomes.
And not only that, but you probably are owed some of this cash, and so it does come back to that maple syrup land grab.
It does. It all does. But Polly, I still think, so my frustration is we always knew Hal was creepy. We always knew Hal was up to no good, and we were right. Hal did steal down the murder board at the sheriff's house. And so he was up to no good, but it was because he was trying to protect his daughter and he was trying to
But why couldn't he have told them this earlier? Is my question.
That's less interesting storytelling. Okay.
That was the one moment, and I was like, you have those moments in certain movies and shows where you're like, a lot of this could have been cleared up with a conversation.
Absolutely, sure. But
maybe he was ashamed.
Hal came around in a big way in this episode, and the family now is back together. I still do think Polly's creepy. Polly still totally freaks me out, and I don't trust Cheryl. I always forget her name. The girl who plays Cheryl is so fantastic. I'm looking.
One thing that they haven't...
Madeline Pesh.
Cheryl's amazing. One thing that they haven't totally paid off yet is this idea of the burn book, right? That's still kind of a dangler. We have several danglers out there. I think, we are going to totally get into why done it next week, but maybe into next season too.
We didn't even touch on Miss Grundy.
Okay, yeah, but I just want to talk about the burn book really quickly.
Please.
Because with Polly...
Chuck, what's going on with Chuck and Reggie? We know Reggie disappeared because Reggie had to go do 13 Reasons.
Right.
But there has to be more
here's
going on
the thing.
with him.
If Polly is maybe Polly found out something, right? I still think Polly could be behind a lot of things, even though... I don't
trust her at all.
I don't trust her either because the behavior is so bizarre.
It is.
And it's so pointedly surreal and left of center that I think there must be something going on there. But I feel like, imagine if this person knows that Jason Blossom is the type to want to go after the forbidden, right? And she somehow finds out about this family connection. She still could be manipulating a lot of this.
So she gets all of it, not just half of it, because with Jason, she has to split it. But if he's out of the picture...
Well, I don't think she manipulated Jason to get killed, but maybe to create a situation in which they had to confess. They had to come out and give the Coopers their due.
That's interesting.
I don't know, but there's something still going on with Polly that I don't trust.
Definitely.
And now that he's killed himself, right? We're not going to hear it, like Jughead says, we're not going to hear the one person that knows why he did it is now dead. But there's still going to be an unearthing of this, right? There's going to be an unearthing of what would be so bad that you would kill your own flesh and blood. And I don't think we're there yet.
Unless wasn't his flesh and blood.
Unless it wasn't his flesh and blood.
So we know that Hal and Alice got into a big fight at the prom that FP overheard. And the assumption online has been that the fight was that Alice was pregnant, probably with Polly.
Yeah.
well, what if, since red hair obviously isn't his, or his hair turned stark white, what if Polly was Cliff's kid? Cliff and Alice's kid? Maybe. Who knows? There's all kinds
I kind of assumed that Alice was with FP though.
You think it's FP and Alice that had a little side game going?
I think they had a side game going. I don't think that Polly is necessarily FP's kid. Because maybe.
How much incest can you have on one show?
That's not incest because Betty would still be Hal's kid.
But your mom is the same.
But
it would still, oh wait.
No, it wouldn't be.
No, it wouldn't be.
Because they would be like weird.
You're right. They'd be, they would be, what would they be? Half
Polly,
sisters,
I don't know what you
brothers?
call that. So if
half siblings?
If Polly is each of their half sibling, what is the other sibling?
If Alice made
tangential siblings? Hashtag
and with
tangential
FP,
siblings.
And then FP made Jughead. Oh, it's just weird. Yeah. All it is weird and gross.
Hashtag tangential siblings.
But I will say, going back to the FP situation, FP and Jughead scene in the jail was also incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
Like this episode was all about family. Bad family, good family, family torn asunder, family coming together, family finding out they didn't even know they were family. But this was such a fantastic scene, but it leads us into the meat, which was who killed Jason Blossom.
Yeah.
And like I said, Kevin finally got to do something. Kevin and Joaquin really were the way that we found all of this out. The insurance that we knew earlier, which was Jason's jacket, we see them sort of hovering over it. Betty makes Archie put it on. There's a rip in the lining. They pull out a little flash drive. On that flash drive is video from where FP was holding Jason Blossom at the White Worm, which is the like Southside Serpents bar.
Right.
And in the moment where they're all watching it, I kept waiting for Polly to walk in.
Yeah,
I really wanted Polly to walk in.
I really thought she was going to. And I feel like when they were holding him, here's the other thing, is that there was something that he wouldn't break about, right? It's obvious that they're...
No, I think what it was Cliff was like, I'm not paying for my son.
Yeah.
You don't get my money because I don't care about my son enough to get the money, which is why I think maybe Cliff isn't his dad.
That's interesting. I didn't take it that way. I took it that Cliff was having them hold him and then trying to break him, trying to get him to change his mind about something. And then when he would not break, he shot him.
And I thought FP said, I'm taking your son.
Well, FP said that, but he also said he killed him.
Right, but I believed the first part. I actually did believe the first part. I think FP was like, I'm holding your son. I want this ransom.
Yeah.
Cliff was like, where are you holding him? I'll bring you the money. He told him where he was.
Except that doesn't, the reason that doesn't make sense to me is because if he is perfect blackmail material. You killed your son, right? But he's sort of already in it for kidnapping.
Yes.
But then they're in it together at that point. Right?
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. I mean,
okay, but then let's not forget about the bag of money that has HL, which could be Hiram Lodge or could be Hermione Lodge, that they found at the Southside Serpents apartment after he OD'd. There's that giant bag of cash, which could have been the money that Hermione gave the Serpents for the drive-in.
Yes.
Or that could be money that Hiram Lodge gave to have Jason held, but not killed. Or, because like you said, I assumed that the confession part, the murder, was the fake part, but maybe Hiram paid for the first part of that confession and Cliff paid
for the second.
Well, or actually did the second.
I would say this. I thought immediately that bag was Hermione's, not Hiram's.
Because you think the script's a little too girly for a dude?
I did. I literally thought it was too feminine. And also, it's that Hermione's reaction.
That could be male or female. I feel like it's a flourishy dude or like a...
Well, also, this is the thing. Hermione's reaction when she came back in and she hit the floor crying and sobbing. Yes, it's a very stressful day. There's a lot of things happening. But to me, that read like, my life is about to be destroyed because I'm going to get caught at something. Right?
Oh, this was such a good episode.
And the thing is, man. As much as they told us, there's still so much yet to be discovered.
So after we find out definitively, they watch the tape, we see all of the reactions. I keep hoping it's going to be Polly Cooper, but we see Clifford Blossom walk out and shoot his son in the head. Yeah. So Cliff Blossom is the killer.
Cliff Blossom is absolutely 100%, no doubt about it, the killer.
We see him standing there. We see him pull the gun. We see him shoot him. And then the police go, what?
But here's the other thing, is that if we're playing with the tropes from Twin Peaks, which we are, obviously, certainly incest was a big part of Twin Peaks, but also the idea that somebody was being driven by a force greater than themselves, and something scared him enough in the past already to turn his hair white, and to get him, maybe he just didn't want to go to jail, but to get him to kill himself, which means that there's something scary enough that this man is killed his son, or his, even if it's just the guy, it's not his flesh and blood, you still raise that child.
Right.
And that his hair turned white overnight, and that he killed himself when he got caught.
Right.
Some other monster, some Bob, if you will,
is coming for him.
It's coming for him, and it's still lurking.
And that's what we see. At the very end of the episode, we see Cheryl and Mrs. Blossom point their fingers to the cop car, and then we go into the maple syrup.
Can we do the point?
Wait, you're going that way. And then we go into the barrel room, and Cliff is hanging by a noose and has killed himself. And below him, below the noose, is a maple syrup barrel that has been tipped over, and it is filled with drugs. Or packets that aren't drugs, but look a lot like drugs.
Yeah.
Is that heroin? Is that more weed for the Southside Serpents? That's too small to be weed. Not that I would know, but.
Well, it only makes sense that, look, as we discovered, maple syrup is actually worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
In and of itself, but it makes sense that this is so much deeper than that, and the way they got involved with the serpents, and Jason was trafficking drugs. Here's the other thing that I noticed is that, according to FP, he asked him to do one run, but according to Cliff, he had been dealing drugs. Do you remember when Cliff phrased it? He didn't say he asked him to do one run.
It also wasn't just Cliff. It was the kid from the high school whose name I don't remember right now, who also said he was dealing drugs. And he said pills, weed, whatever you needed. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it wasn't Cliff. Sorry. Yeah, it wasn't Cliff.
Yeah, it was the kid at Pops.
It was the kid at Pops who said he was already doing it.
Yeah.
As if he had been doing it for a while and was starting to downward spiral. And we were like, oh, he's doing that behind the family's back. But maybe in reality, that was him coming into the family business.
So what if that's
why. So that's the very family business that his dad said he does not have the stomach for, but Cheryl, you do. And that is
we're about to take a turn to Narcos?
Yeah, this is the thing. He didn't have the stomach to be a damn drug dealer.
Wow.
Is what I'm figuring. And maybe he was going to turn those blossoms in. We're coming full circle.
This is pretty incredible.
This is like the experience of watching the episode.
But that would be unbelievable. Yeah. I would love that. And when we see all of the like coming attractions for next week, it seems like somebody breaks into Pop's Diner, whether or not they actually want money or if they just want to scare people, we're not sure. It looks like Archie's beating up Snow, which is a weird thing to beat up, but he's upset about something.
Sure.
I think the drugs are become a bigger thing because the police are there and they start investigating. So we're going to find out more about that. I think the idea that there was a maple syrup ring and a drug ring make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot of things, though. Here are the threads that I still want us to figure out. I don't trust Polly. I don't trust the babies. I still think that is a big possibility. Miss Grundy has not been touched on at all. Where the hell is Reggie? We do see Josie and the Pussycats, but they're singing backup for Archie, which I do not like in the finale episode. We see that. But what's going on with Josie and the Pussycats? What's up with Chuck? I mean, these are all these things that they've opened the door to. And is this something we're going to have to wait for a season 2 on? Or do you think we're going to get a ton of answers in the finale? Because we got a ton of answers in this episode.
I feel like we're going to get some answers in the finale, but they're still setting up a lot for next season, right? They're still setting up this idea. I don't think the answer of 100% why Jason Blossom was killed is going to be answered in the finale. I think that's going to play into next season.
Hashtag why done it.
Why done it.
That, I think, is actually the central conceit of the whole show.
Yeah.
Why done it is the reason to watch this show. Who done it was what got us hooked.
Yeah.
Why done it is what's going to keep us here and what will drive every single storyline from now on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the big hints from this episode that because we're not done with the reveals yet, there is something scarier than the Blossoms, which is shocking because they're so creepy. Terrifying. And clearly there's some kind of drug ring that maybe Jason just didn't have the stomach for, and he said he was going to turn his family in.
And what happens to Cheryl now that she knows the truth?
And/or there's the connection, in the financial connection in the family.
Well, now that the Coopers are actually Blossoms, there's going to be a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And where did Joaquin go? Will he be back? And to that end, I have a trivia question for you, Miss Roth.
I do. I have a new hashtag for us because there's so many layers to why Jason had a problem with his family and what was going on with him and the Coopers. But like hashtag plus incest. Like, it's like drugs and they stole their money and it's crazy and you're completely corrupt and you're making me be a drug dealer. Plus
Incest! Woo! Okay, trivia question for you. Joaquin gets on a bus in this episode, and he and Kevin have this lovely moment, and they kiss, and Joaquin goes off into the sunset. Where is his bus going? I will give you a hint if you need a hint.
I need a hint.
It links into a show that is on Netflix. Okay, it's on Black Mirror. It's a reference to Black Mirror. Where is Joaquin going on the bus?
I don't know. Tell me.
Jonathan, throw it up. Because I was like, how great is that?
That's so
That was like
funny.
a teeny tiny little Easter egg that made me so happy when I was
That's so
watching this
funny.
episode. They say goodbye, they kiss, he jumps on a bus to San Junipero, which if you have not seen the most recent season of Black Mirror, that's episode 4. It is the best episode. I say the name, I get the chills. But that makes me think,
what it is?
Is Joaquin like imaginary?
Joaquin's not imaginary. You know what that makes me think?
It's the best times of their life.
They're going to end up together. They're destined to end up together. That's what I think.
But when they're old?
Well, it might take a minute.
Oh, man.
It might take a minute.
Oh, but this episode.
But you're forever young in San Junipero. Well,
so yeah, well, you're forever young in your mind.
Yeah.
And you're forever young in Riverdale.
yes.
But the fact that we now know that Cliff Blossom was the killer.
yes.
But we still have no idea why.
Yes.
And that we have seen FP and Jughead, through lies, have really come together in a deeper way because all along, all FP wanted to do was protect his son.
Yeah.
Man, the show's getting good.
It's getting good, guys.
Now that we know that the Blossoms and the Coopers are one big not so happy family, the only thing that is left is for Archie to become interesting.
Oh,
come on. You know it's true. Archie is so absy milquetoast.
Well, you guys let us know what you think.
Yeah. Tell us what you thought of this episode. Do you have any new theories? Were you as mind blown as we were? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news. See you soon.